Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 in the house, bringing to you another edition of the Batwoman review series of Season 1, and today I'm going to be reviewing Episode 6 entitled I'll Be Judge, I'll Be Jury, which I've just finished watching, and I have to say, very good episode. Probably not as good as the last week's episode with Alice, but I still enjoyed this one. There was a lot more Batwoman action than we got last week, but yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It was really good. This week's episode, the villain was the Executioner. Now, the Executioner is an old Batman villain, I think back in 1968, and he had a bit of a goofy look in the comics, so they brought in the Executioner for this episode, and I have to say, he looked quite downright scary. He had like this long hood slash burlap sort of mask, which kind of looks similar to the Scarecrow from what he used in Batman Begins, and he had like this long trench coat and this big massive axe, so it looked quite scary. He looked like a combination of Bane dressed up as an executioner, so it was like Bane meets the Executioner sort of look, and that was quite a good look. And he has sort of like a vigilante persona to himself, where he's going around targeting different law enforcement members and judge officials who he deems as corrupted. So that's quite an interesting character. I hope we get to see more of him, because I like characters like that. People who go around killing people and they think it's justified. Kind of similar to what Jason Todd did for years as the Red Hood back in the Red Hood story arcs with Batman. So he was a lot of fun. So anyway, we kick off this episode when we see DA Angus Stanton walking to his car, and all of a sudden we see the Executioner just appear out of nowhere, chopping down an electrical pole with his axe and destroying his car, and then we see him cut off the cap of a fire hydrant and making all of the water electrified. And that results in Stanton getting electrocuted as he tries to make his escape from this Executioner. And this DA is a bit of a big deal, really, because we learn in the news report that Angus Stanton is responsible for bringing down Jack Napier, aka the Joker. So we got a Jack Napier reference in this episode. So the Joker does exist in the Arrowverse, it appears. So will we get to see the Joker at some point? Who knows, really, but the fact that they've already referenced the Joker, not just his existence but by his actual real name, is awesome, in my opinion. Absolutely awesome. Some people might have an opinion saying, oh, why should the Joker have a real name? You know, why should his origin be this or that? It should be multiple choice, you know, all that sort of thing. But for me personally, I like the idea that the Joker had a real name, or he's referenced by his old real name. So it's really cool. So it looks like this episode does pay a little reference to Batman 89. So that was a lot of fun. So I was really happy that they did that. We also learn in this episode that DA Stanton is responsible for bringing down some of Gotham City's most notorious criminals. So in a way, he could have been what Harvey Dent was, so he may have taken over the DA role after Dent became Two-Face. And speaking of being a hero, it looks like to me that Batwoman now is officially on the speed dial of the GCPD, as she now has her bat signal. So just like Batman for many years with Jim Gordon, if the police ever needed help, they contact Batwoman. So it's good to see that Batwoman is starting to gain the police force's trust. But however, Jacob Kane still doesn't trust Batwoman, as he sees her symbol as nothing more than a symbol of false hope. And it's quite cool that we get to see a member of the police force distrusting Batwoman. Kind of reminds me of the early days of the Batman comics when Jim Gordon was not so trusting of Batman. Also, in this episode, it looks like Sophie learns Batwoman's true identity, See, I don't know how I feel about that, because I personally think that maybe Sophie should have learned Batwoman's secret identity, maybe in the season finale, or maybe in the second to last episode. I don't know really. I mean, she has her suspicions that Batwoman is Kate, but I don't know if she has actual proof as of yet, because during a warehouse raid where we think there was hostages, we learn it was just a ruse by Alice, and as Sophie is shot, we see Sophie address Batwoman as Kate, so she has had her suspicions, as we say, but whether or not she's going to actually put the pieces of the puzzle together is another story. Also in this episode, Sophie asks Jacob that can she have permission to take down the Batwoman, so maybe she will finally learn once and for all that Kate Kane and Batwoman are one and the same. So who knows really. I'm not sure if I like the idea of Batwoman's ex being the one who takes her down. That will be like Jim Gordon being the one to take down Batgirl, who is really his daughter. It just feels a bit weird to me, but who knows, maybe they might find a way to pull this off as the show goes along, but we'll just have to wait and see. However, we do learn what's happened to Lucius Fox, as we got a bit of that story from his son Luke Fox. He explains to Kate that Angus Stanton took down his dad's killer because what happened was, on the day of Luke Fox's graduation day, his dad was shot and D.A. Stanton was the one who brought him down. So that was quite nice that we got to learn a little bit about what happened to Lucius Fox, because I was kind of hoping that maybe we might see Lucius Fox show up for an episode in the Arrowverse, but it looks like he's dead. So that's a shame really. It would have been interesting to see who could have played Lucius Fox. We still could see that, maybe in a flashback or two in a future episode. So we'll just have to wait and see really. But it's nice that we got to learn what actually happened to Lucius Fox in the Arrowverse. Also, Batwoman drops off Sophie at Mary's clinic, where she tells Mary to not let Sophie leave, and after she leaves she confesses to Mary that I know who Batwoman is, and Mary's like, well, I don't really want to know who Batwoman actually is. I don't want that kind of responsibility on me. So it's slowly looking like she's putting the pieces together, but as I said, we're going to just have to wait and see how this story plays out. Hopefully they won't drag it out too long, but I do feel that this should have been more towards the end sort of stuff, but it is what it is. Also, we got a reference to the Penguin. Luke Fox mentions Mayor Cobblepot, so who knows, maybe we might even see the Penguin show up. It's really cool. So not only did we get a Joker reference, but we also got a Penguin reference as well. Nice, if I do say so myself. In this episode, we finally learn what's this mysterious weapon that Catherine Kane has been working on at Hamilton R&D. Mouse in Disguise learns that this weapon is powerful enough to penetrate Batwoman's batsuit, so maybe this weapon could play a big role in the season finale or maybe a few episodes beforehand. So we got a bit of information about what Catherine was actually working on in secret, so that makes it quite interesting. So it looks like they're building up to some sort of big event that's going to go down. It's possible we could see this all go down after the Crisis events, because we know Batwoman's going to be part of Crisis on Infinite Earths, so who knows, maybe this ultimate weapon may play a big role after, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Kate and Luke learn that the executioner is none other than Bertrand Eldon, who is a former executioner at Blackgate Penitentiary, and hence the name The Executioner. He confesses that for the 20 years that he worked at Blackgate Penitentiary, he thought he was doing the right thing executing criminals, but later on he realises that the people that he was executing were actually innocents, and that's why he felt he became a murderer, and he takes on the disguise of the executioner. So in some ways, the executioner is not fully a villain, although going around killing people isn't right. At least now we got an idea of why exactly he's been going around targeting all these government officials and DAs and killing them all off one by one. So that was a nice little twist. So I'm glad we got to learn a bit more about who the executioner really is and why he became this axe-wielding vigilante. So after a big fight with the executioner in the courtroom of all places, Batwoman saves Jacob, and Jacob says that I will not let the bat symbol be the last thing I see before I die. And Batwoman tells him to let his hatred fuel him into staying alive. And Jacob explains that he has to blame the bat symbol because otherwise he'll have to blame himself. So in some ways it sounds like Jacob blames Batman, or just the bat symbol in general, for not saving Beth. And speaking of Beth, Alice and Mouse look like they're working on some sort of plan to capture Kate Kane, because Mouse is obviously getting very insecure and getting very upset that you're neglecting me, you still care about your sister, blah blah blah. And Alice says, no, I don't care about her, I still care about you, you're my brother and all that sort of thing. We won't have to share anyone. What if we're going to share Kate together? So it looks like this is setting up for a tea party, according to Alice. So who knows? Could we see the Mad Hatter show up? Because we know that Alice is from Alice in Wonderland, that sort of character anyway. So who knows? We might see the Mad Hatter show up in the next episode or two. We're just going to have to wait and see. But the last shot you see is Mouse and Alice looking up at Wayne Tower. So obviously they've got the weapon, the accelerator, so obviously this is all starting to come together to capture Kate Kane and bring her to this quote-unquote tea party, so to speak. And Jacob and Kate have a moment where Jacob breaks down, and they both break down actually, about how they couldn't save Beth. And Sophie walks in, looking like I think she's going to reveal the truth about Batwoman, but she thinks better of it and walks away. So, overall, I have to say, very good episode. Even though I enjoyed last week's episode more, I would definitely say this episode made up for the lack of Batwoman action from last week. So, this episode we got to see a hell of a lot more Batwoman action, we got to see her fighting, we got to see her using a bit more of her detective skills, so I'm really happy we got to see more of Kate in the Batsuit. So there you have it, guys. What did you think of this week's episode of Batwoman? Did you think it was good, or did you think last week's one was better? What was your thoughts on the Joker and Penguin references that we got in this week's episode? Leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will be back for another edition of the Batwoman Season 1 review series, where I'll be reviewing episode 7. So till then, take care everybody, and bye for now.